The Life Talk Show is about testimonies where you can listen to be inspired, encouraged, uplifted, and entertained. It's the life. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining in. We are live. My name is Ashley Cotton, the host for the Live Talk Show. And of course, with me, I do have a guest, and I'm going to introduce my guest. But for those who are watching, for those who are not quite familiar with what this show is about, it's about testimony, inviting different walks, different people from different backgrounds to come on and openly and candidly share their story based off Revelation 12 and 11, which is, and we overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. It is so important to be able to share our story, but not only that, but to be in such a place of peace and freedom where we're open enough to be able to share our story, to help our neighbor, to help the next person to overcome and step into the destiny and the abundance that God has for them. So without further ado, I'm going to read you Victory's bio. And so Victory Ford is an entrepreneur, an author, inspirational speaker to reignite the lives of those who feel dead. She knows firsthand the struggles of life while being a Christian. Victory had experienced chronic homelessness since 18 years old. After 3 failed suicide attempts, undiagnosed mental health issues, and battling homelessness, Victory made the hard decision to place her son up for adoption to ensure he would live a better life. In time, God broke the cycle of poverty and homelessness. She went to counseling and experienced total healing. Now, a successful entrepreneur and author, her goal in life is to reignite the lives of Christians who feel dead. Her goal is to help them experience abundance of love, peace, joy, and prosperity promised to us in John 10:10 through the new brand, Isn't Life Better? You can actually read the rest of Victory's bio at www.isn'tlifebetter.org/about. You can also pick up Victory's latest book, which is Leave Everything and Prosper, at her website, which is www.isn'tlifebetter.org. So let's welcome Victory. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Victory. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and you're just going to take us on a journey of your beginning, of where it all started for you.
Okay. Again, thank you so much for having me on your show. And you just reading that bio got me all emotional again, because I felt like I was reliving it because it's so true. It started with at 18 years old. I was homeless. Got into an argument with my mom, and that was the journey. That was the beginning. I actually lived in a closet before. One thing, I've never technically lived out on the streets, but I've lived in multiple homeless shelters. Moved back in with my mom after, and then she passed, and I was homeless again, but this time with a child. So you can ask me a question. It's hard to kind of go on the journey, but kind of like what you said, I've had chronic homelessness, and what's so funny about this is that God took me from chronic homelessness, never knowing where I was going to stay, and called me out to be an entrepreneur where it's also not stable, and He made it successful. And, he made it successful. So where I thought what would be stable is a job, and I did. I ended up coming up out of that. The Lord blessed me through a job, and I was comfortable, and I lived, very nicely. But then the Lord called me back out into instability so that I can be permanently stable. because we think that a job is what makes us stable, but it's God who makes us stable.
That's
so
right.
I came from that. So you can ask me any questions. It's hard to kind of go through the whole journey, but yeah.
Victory, what I want to know, because we did talk a little bit before we went live, and I was like, don't tell me no more, don't tell me no more, because I don't have my guests to tell me their testimony beforehand, because I want to hear it in real time as the audience are, listening too. So one of the things that we talked about that you shared with me is your son, because that was one of the things that struck out to me, is because with our children, we can't imagine having to make a decision of where they're going to go, of where they're going to be, other than with us, the parent. So talk about that moment where you are homeless, you're living in the shelter, and your son at this time is 5 years old. And when I asked you the question, I said, Victory, is your son with you now? Like, were you able to get him back? And you said no. So even from that point, talk about having to make a split decision of having to give your child up for adoption.
So that I need to kind of take you back so you can have some foundation. I got pregnant when I was 20 years old, and around November, when I was about 20 years old, and I was still a kid, not on paper, but mentally I was still a child because my mother didn't know how to raise me. My mom had dealt with, in her childhood, a lot of abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse. And when she had me because she thought that I would be the thing to love her. Okay. I'm leading up to somewhere, so just follow me. She thought I would be the thing to love her. And she had multiple miscarriages and things like that. So I was the blessing. Well, what happened is that because my mother's wings were clipped when she was a child, she ended up being a child raising a child. So I never knew how to stand on my 2 feet as an adult. When she passed, I was still living with my mother at 26 years old with a 5-year-old child. And because she had not raised me, I still mentally was a child. So my mother was a child, even though she died at 63, she still was 12 in her mind. When I was 26 years old, I was still 15 in my mind. Now I have a 5-year-old not knowing how to deal with life because my mother never taught me how to do it. From there, I ended up, after she died, my son, I have to say this. When my mother died, I was not home. My mother was babysitting my son, and she had died on the couch. So he's there with a dead body on the couch. Yeah. And when my best friend came over at the time that they were putting her body, my son is young. He doesn't really understand. And we moved with my best friend for a while. And then we go on our journey towards the homeless shelter. At that time, I don't know how to stand on my own 2 feet. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure out life. I'm snapping at my child. I don't have that motherly thing in me because I'm mad at the dad. It's so much, why is he not here? My mother, no. It's so much stuff that is going on in my head.
Yeah, for sure.
And a pastor that I met at that time was like, well, have you thought about coming to Indianapolis? Because I'm a graphic and web designer by trade. So he said, well, and at that time that's how I fed myself. I fed myself by doing little websites here, little book covers and things like that. That's how I was able to eat. I had a laptop. It was me, my laptop, and Jesus. That was it. That's all I had. So he said, why don't you come to Indianapolis and then you can do projects for me? I moved to Indianapolis, me and my son, and he was not really there to help me. He wasn't there to help me at all. So now, again, I'm alone. And And yeah, he gave me projects here and there and things like that. I went to the church and it was the whole church thing. But at that time, I was so gone. I only had 30 days to be inside of the homeless shelter in Indianapolis. So that's where the first suicide attempt happened. I ingested bleach and soda. Yeah.
Okay, now wait a minute. Now, what do bleach and soda do?
I don't know. I woke up with my stomach burning. I literally with my so the last day of the homeless shelter, I'm trying to kind of condense this as much as I can, but it was the last day at the homeless shelter in Indianapolis, and I called the pastor and said, like, hey, I have nowhere to go. Can you help me out? And he got me a room for a while in Indianapolis, a hotel. And before I left, I had wrote a suicide note, and I had took the bleach and the soda, and I was hoping I wasn't going to wake up. And my son was there. And I was praying that I wasn't going to wake up. And my son was so accustomed to me either not being there or his grandmother watching. He was so independent. So me being asleep was like nothing to him at that time.
Yeah.
It was nothing to him at that time. And I woke up. That was the first time. Two suicide attempts later, I knew that there was something wrong with me. And I did not want my son to find me like he found his grandmother. So I had to make a decision. If I could actually care for him. I knew that eventually I would come out of the situation. That's one thing I knew. I knew I would come out of the situation because I understand seasons. This is where the enemy gets us caught up, because the enemy will make you think that this thing is forever, and it's just never going to end. But there's a time and a season for everything. So I knew I was going to come up out of it somehow. But my question was, would I be able to raise my child? And would I even make with the season equal death? With the end of the season for me equal death? That's what I needed to know. And I didn't know. I couldn't put my son in that type of position of finding me dead, because the end of the season was going to be death for me. So it took me a long time to say, okay, Victory, if you become a millionaire tomorrow, would you have made the right decision? And the answer always came back yes in my spirit. It always came back yes. I said, okay, if tomorrow you had a home and you were well, and you can't get your son back, would you have made the right decision? And the answer always came back yes. And even now, almost, he was 5, so he's about to be 16. Now, over a decade later, the answer is still yes, I made the right decision, even through all of the hurt and the pain. So if there's anybody on here watching here that's like, I know I can't be a mother, you have to take yourself into the future, because it wasn't just the poverty that brought me to that decision. I knew I mentally was not ready to be a mother. I couldn't, the same way that my mom, she didn't have the capacity to give me the love. My mother didn't tell me she loved me until I was pregnant with my son. So even though she wanted me to love her, she didn't know how to love me. So and that'll minister to somebody right there, because we want to get stuff from people, but we don't know how to give it. We don't even have the capacity to give what we want from other people. So she wanted to get that love from me, and she didn't even know how to give it. She didn't know how to raise me. I didn't know how to become a woman until I was into my mid-20s, until she actually passed. That's when I learned how to become a woman, knowing how to put on makeup, hygiene, all of that stuff. I didn't know how to do it. So I had absolutely nothing in me to pass to my son. Nothing. So when I look back and I look at his life now, because it was an open adoption, so I go see him once a year, and yeah, he I see the schools that he's at. I see how he is loved and the family like really loved. I see the discipline, how they're taking full care of him. I know everything that they gave him, not just the material part, not just that, but I'm talking
Right.
about love. That part, I didn't have it to give.
Wow. And pretty much, even though it was a tough decision that you made, it was a better, and it was really a selfish decision. It's really selfless because you were setting him up for his future.
Mm-hmm.
You were setting him up where he can be successful. And a lot of times we know that God makes all things work together for the good of those that love him and are called according to his purpose. How are you all relationship when you do see him once a year? Is it, close, or does he understand? Have you all had the communication to talk about it openly?
We haven't had the communication to really talk about it. And he's kind of like how I was when I was growing up, as in just that hard exterior. Somehow when battles come or problems come, I used to know how to just plunge through them. Don't worry about it. Just keep it going. Just keep it going. I'm not gonna get emotional. I didn't even know how to cry. I used to be so emotionally hard. I didn't know how to cry because my mother, she didn't teach me love. She taught me toughness because she knew that we were poor. She knew that she couldn't give me what I needed. And so she had to teach me how to be tough in the world. And he has kind of that same thing without me even teaching him. He knows how to be tough. So there will be a time where I know he will open up about it.
Victory, when was the time when you had the breakthrough, like when the hardness fell off of you and you did have like that deep sob cry where it was just you and the Father, like, and through it all, what was he saying to you? That inner voice that we have.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So years passed. I moved to Charlotte after my the adoption, and the gavel was hit that the transfer of owner of parenthood goes to the adopted family. I took a bus and I came here to Charlotte, and I knew it. I knew it in my spirit. I was supposed to be here. Well, the Lord, he began to break that cycle of homelessness. I stayed in a homeless shelter here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And even my apartment here that I just moved into is a huge testimony in itself. But got into a homeless shelter here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And the Lord took me through a process, and I started working at Shutterfly Inc. Well, again, and $1 billion company. I mean, when God blew open the door, he blew it open. So I started being in management there. I had money I had never had before. I lived beautiful. I went from homelessness to depression to all of that stuff to just overnight. It was like God changed it. And I mean, if I tell you the stories of just the process of the homeless shelters here, and then in the blink of an eye, it's all changed.
Oh, that suddenly moment. That's suddenly.
Just things changed. And when it shifted, this is what happened. God can sometimes put you in a season where he will change your finances even before your mindset catches up. And my mindset and my spirit still had not caught up, even though the Lord was with me. This is when I talk about times and seasons. God is never going to go against his word. I don't care what you do, you act crazy or whatever. If he said he was going to bless you, he is going to bless you. And he did it. And for 8 years, the Lord blessed me. But in 2016, I heard him calling me again. And it wasn't that I had completely 100% left the Lord. It was just that he was in the back pocket, if that makes sense. He was in the back pocket, and you wake up, good morning, Lord, praise you. I'm still smoking, drinking, partying, and now because I have more money, I'm really smoking and drinking because I can afford it. I can go out.
You said, listen, I'm about to upgrade from a dime bag to
all of it.
Okay.
So I got the upgraded drinks through the whole house. I mean, we got all types of alcohol. We got parties, drinking it till you throw it up, just having fun. And I felt something when I was about to turn 33 years old. Something was calling me, and I couldn't get it. I knew it was the Lord, but it was something else, and I didn't know what that was. And I remember telling my best friend, I said, I was actually 32, and it was about to be my birthday, and I was like, listen, homie, I'm about to have a party at my house, and this is gonna be the last party because I'm about to turn into a nun. Like I'm going to Jesus. And they was like, what, you stupid? I was like, no, for real. I was playing, but I was serious at the same time because I was feeling something. And I was like, no, I'm about to be a nun for real. So just like come to my house, 33rd birthday, and we just gonna turn up all of that stuff. And that's what happened. That's literally what happened. I ended up having a party, tore up, people falling down my steps, just crazy. I'll never forget that birthday. And I'll never forget it because it was almost like after it ended, it was like there's time for a transition. And I was drinking so much. I'm telling you, I would drink. I wasn't that type of person that would drink in the morning at all, but every Friday I was drinking some type of alcohol. And subconsciously, when you are hurting, you may not know why you're doing it. You think that you're having fun, but subconsciously there was still pain there that was not dealt with, that I didn't even know about because I had hidden it under alcohol, partying, money, fun, friends, all of that stuff. Even with food, alcohol may not be your thing, but food is an addiction. So some people, they may just eat and they think, oh, I got money and I just like food and stuff like that. No, you are suppressing something. So after I turned 33, I heard the Lord tell me, leave your job. And I text my best friend and I said, I think Satan is talking to me because he told me to leave my job. And then he told me, I want you to go back to your home state, which is Ohio. I said, oh, he's really talking to me now because he want me to leave my good paying job. I already, he processed me out of that homeless stuff. And now you want me to go back to cold Ohio? Oh, yeah, the devil. And she was like, girl, if God is saying what he's doing, I said, this not God. This is not God. This is Satan for real. Like the devil is in my ear and I need you to pray. I need you to intercede, best friend. I'm being funny, but I was that serious. Like I need you to intercede because Satan is talking. And it was God. God literally and well, let me just fast forward. The Lord told me to leave my job. He showed me the timing and all of that stuff. I ended up leaving. My God, I ended up leaving. I ended up taking a pay cut. He opened a door to a new job. Well, that new job was the process of him getting into my heart so that I could walk into purpose. When I got to that new job, I ended up meeting someone that I thought was a friend that was not. And that hurt me to the core because I'm in transition. I'm thinking that you're a friend, but you're really fake and you're using me. And now I'm trying to also hear God talk to me. And it hurt me so bad because it wasn't just that person, but it was other people I started to see betray me. And I started to see how they were using me for my money and wasn't even friends at all. So what God will do sometimes is that in order for him to get into your heart, he'll have someone break your heart, because there's no way that you can get inside of a body to do an operation unless you take the scalpel against it and cut it. So
ooh, you just said a whole mouthful right there, because don't nobody like that. We don't like that. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be betrayed, especially someone that's close to me. But God operates differently than what this world operates.
Yep.
And that's the thing, tearing down the strongholds, tearing down the lies of how God is supposed to be and how he should move in our lives. We're the clay, he's the potter, so he knows what's best. And even though the weeping does endure for a night or season and times, which you spoke about, Victory, that joy will come. The table that he will present for you will prepare for you in the presence of your enemies. Psalms 23, that first you got to walk through that valley through the shadow of death.
Yes.
And that's the part that is like, no, I don't want to walk through that. No, I don't want to surrender. I don't want what, that's what's needed. So we're back. Okay, so that's what's needed to get to the promises. So I'm glad that you highlighted and said that. So looking back at it now, Victory, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, it was needed, because one thing you said is you talked about the clay. Well, sometimes that clay needs to be remolded, and in order to do that, remember, clay gets hard, and what you have to do is you have to break it. And so that's what God had to do. He had to break the hard clay so that he could remold me again. And God will use anybody. He'll use your family. He'll use friends. He'll use a job. He'll use a cousin. He'll use a husband. He'll use a wife. He'll use whatever he has to use in order to get inside of there. And I remember being on my floor for 4 days crying. I mean, out 4 days. I could not see light. I had covered all of my windows with sheets, with just sheets to make it darker, because I couldn't take the light. I was in such a depression of just realizing how all these people was using me, people that wasn't really friends, just in so much pain. I'm transitioning. I don't know what God is doing. And let me tell you, on those 4 days, the Lord took the taste of alcohol out of my mouth. And because I used to drink until I got drunk. Okay. It had no point to me of getting drunk, drinking and not getting drunk. And so he took I felt it. When people say, oh, he'll take cigarettes out your mouth. No, I'm telling you, I felt it on that floor. I was on the floor speaking and crying for 4 days. And the taste of alcohol was out of my mouth supernaturally.
And you were able to cry.
Yeah, I was able to cry. So when you ask, that's the first time. And he started to soften my heart. And I would say, when I would see people just talking about God and they just cry, I'm like, that's fake. Why is you crying? Or when they happy, they crying. I'm like, what are you crying for? But now I'm welling up already. Just the Lord softened my heart. And I can cry on a drop of a dime. When I start talking about Jesus, I could just feel, because it's not you crying, it's the Holy Spirit, the joy. It's him rising up in you. And that when you have those tears, that's the manifestation of him just showing up in you, that your heart is soft. And so from there, at that point, the Lord had called me out. He said, I'm calling you to be an entrepreneur. And I was just like, no, because first of all, I need my paycheck every Friday. Okay.
Listen, Laura, I know what you're saying, but listen, I need guaranteed money. Okay.
Right. Now you had me on the floor for 4 days. You took alcohol out my mouth. That's great. That's wonderful. But now we I need my paycheck. You got me in a nice house. You telling me you want me to go back to homelessness? No. I didn't enjoy that. I didn't enjoy depression. I didn't enjoy none of that stuff. No. Fast forward, I have a whole book called Leap. Okay. I have a whole book called Leap of how God took me from homelessness to having a job to entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is not for you to say, I'm a boss. This is what I learned. It's not because I'm a boss or I make money and all. No, it's actually 1,000,000% times harder. And it is a ministry. It is a ministry because you are breaking generational cycles off of other people's lives. So the Lord, he took me through a process. He had me move to Florida. He had me leave my job. Like I literally had no choice but become a business owner. God didn't give me a choice. He had me leave my job, everything that I had earned. The same way that he told the disciples, drop your money bags and follow me, called them out. That's exactly what he did to me. Everything that I had earned over those years from the homeless shelter, I had to give it back and then go right back into homeless shelter.
Wow. Victory.
Right back. In Florida, the Lord said, leave everything. I'm talking about house, dog, car, everything. And I'm going to show you how to be an entrepreneur.
And when he showed you how to be an entrepreneur, what were some of the keys for those who are on the brink of making a decision to leave their 9-to-5 job, to leave what's comfortable, and to pursue what God is telling them to pursue? Because it does take a leap, as you mentioned. So what were some of those keys to help those who are entrepreneurs or thinking about becoming an entrepreneur?
The first thing is that you got to know that you're really called. That's the first thing. I'm being totally serious about that. You got to know that you called, because a lot of people, they see the glam and stuff like that, but this is something that you literally have to be called to, because it's a different way of thinking, and you just got to know that God himself called you. You need to be just like Gideon, asking for all the signs. Okay, Lord Jesus, let the east wind blow. If you said that I'm called to be an entrepreneur, you got to know that you know. And the reason why I'm emphasizing that is because when the storm comes, the storms of entrepreneurship, when they come, when there are dry seasons, when you're ready to throw in the towel, guess what? You have a word to stand on. So that's number one. You got to know that you call, and you got to have a word to stand on. Number 3, you have to also be able to have some word in you. You got to be able to hear him. So because the Lord says that he orders our steps. Well, you have to hear something in order for your steps to be ordered. You got to make a move, and you got to know what move that you're actually making. So once you're taking a step, you got to be able to really hear him, like even in this season, and he'll change the way that you hear him as well. So you got to know when God is changing the way that he's talking to you, because sometimes he may talk to you through dreams. For almost 10 years, almost 15 years, God spoke to me through dreams. Now in this season, God is speaking to me through my spirit. And I mean, like I'm hearing it in my spirit, knowing what move to make. There were seasons where he talked to me through signs and symbols and numbers and stuff like that. So you got to be able to hear him. So that's the first foundational thing. The next things, if you want to be an entrepreneur, is that you got to do the natural stuff, which is study. And when I say study, you need to pick up a book and read. And I'm not just talking about inspirational books. I'm talking about you need to read books about business. You need to be reading. You need to be listening to stuff about business. You need to be honing in on your craft. You need to be taking courses. So when people have courses out here to teach you how to teach online, or maybe you're looking into get into MLM, you need to study your craft. The Bible says, study to show thyself approved. Okay. You wouldn't be ashamed. Well, that's also in the natural as well. You need to study to show yourself approved to your customers. Because
Customer service.
yeah, customer service, and then also your skill. You can't just give people anything, so you have to learn how to do that. And then the fourth thing is, and it actually should have been the second thing, but it's fear. You have to be able to overcome fear. In the Bible, when Elijah, I believe, he went to Zarephath, the first thing that he asked her is for some water. That was easy. But then he asked her for some bread. And she was like, wait, what? You want me to eat some bread? But the next line in that scripture, it says, he told her, fear not. And then he gave her the promise. He had to remove fear out of her spirit before she could receive the promise of the overflow. And a lot of the times when we are working in our business, we have to do scary things like be in people's inboxes that we don't know, that we know we're going to annoy. Sometimes we may have to give a seed, and I'm not talking about in the church. I'm talking about a huge investment in our business. That's a seed. We'll have to do that and put it into our business so that it'll grow. So those are things that if you want to be an entrepreneur, that you are really going to have to overcome.
That is good. That's a lot of good advice, because being an entrepreneur myself, first thing was God had to move me out of my 9-to-5 job. I got fired. I got let go. March 15th of 2019 was my last day because I couldn't pass a licensing exam, which I thought, man, I'm about to pass this licensing exam and I'm about to get paid, because I was studying to become a broker in the financial industry, with trades and things, with stocks. I worked for TD Ameritrade as well as Charles Schwab. So I thought that, man, I get this license underneath my belt and study for some more licenses, I'm on my way. But he shut all that down to bring me back around to what he has purposed and called me. So the thing is that whatever you may be doing and wherever you are now, God knows how to get you to where he needs you to be. And if that means he's closing doors, if that means that you may be homeless for a season, whatever it may be for your purpose, for your process, because everyone is different. They got to walk their own valley. They got to walk their own desert, whatever that may be for you. But just know that you will come out on the other side, because we came out on the other side. And you just keep walking with him, letting him lead you and guide you, because he's not going to lead you and guide you into something that's going to be devastating for you. It's not only a setup for you, but a setup for your bloodline. And so Victory, when we were talking before we went live, I want you to share about when you were in what I don't want to say mental institution, but was it when you said that, they were trying to, you thought that it was just going to give you pills and give you, drugs?
Yeah.
Because for those that may be struggling, I just want you to just to bring clarity to what people may think it is, but it's not.
Yeah. So when I first moved here to Charlotte, I was in a all women's homeless shelter, and then I got moved to transitional housing, and it was a really nice house. And I was like, okay, I'm comfortable. Well, they were changing their processes, and one of the things they came up with to help the women transition out is help them with their mindset and heal mentally. And therefore, I was required to go to counseling, and they would bring the counselor to the transitional housing home. Well, in my mind, first of all, I was completely out of my mind at that time. After I lost my son, custody of my son, I was just mentally gone, just not there, smoking, drinking, whatever it was. I was not coherent at all, seriously. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to no counseling. Y'all not gonna drug me up, because that's what y'all want to do. Y'all want to drug me up. My drugs are okay. Marijuana, weed, pot, whatever you want to call my drugs keep me sane. I'm good. No. And they were like, well, if you want to stay here, you're going to go to counseling. Like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to do what you want me to do. It was the best thing that happened to me. Again, God will order your steps. He will order the steps. And when I tell you, some people are really anointed to be counselors. If God is calling you to be a counselor and you know he is, do that. God is not calling everybody to be an entrepreneur. That's our ministry. Your ministry may be counseling, and this little white lady, probably like 4'11", real young, and I'm looking at her like, what is this little white lady gonna do for me? For real, that was what in my mind. And that woman was anointed for counseling because it healed me. She said, the first thing she said to me was, Victory, I'm not going to put you on medicine. It was like God spoke right through her. The first thing she said, we're not talking about medicine. She said, the real healing is talking it out. So I want you to start from the beginning. And she listened. She told me, she said, what happens is that your mind, what depression is your mind pretty much trying to heal itself and protect itself. She said, Vic, you went through one brick wall, shook it off, and kept running. You went through another brick wall, shook it off, kept running. You went through another brick wall, shook it off, and kept running. And eventually you go through enough brick walls where your brain says no more and it shuts down. And that's why you can't get out of bed. That's the reason why you feel like a weight is on your back. So some people, if you're dealing with depression, you may feel like you wake up in the morning and you woke up with you ever jump in a pool with clothes on. You may feel like that. That's depression. It's not only mental, but it's also physical. So that's your brain shutting completely down. And that's what was happening to me. She said, so what we do is we heal it by just talking it out. And that's what happened. I was able to talk it out because remember in the beginning of this broadcast, we talked about how I would just hold stuff in and I wouldn't cry. And I would say that is one time that I actually cried during those sessions. Tears are healing.
They are. And God says that he collect your teardrops. Angels collect your teardrops in bottles. And what they do is they ascend back to heaven and they pour out your teardrops into a book because there's moanings and groanings that the Holy Spirit makes on our behalf that we can't even express into words because it's so painful and so devastating. And so your tears are ministry, your tears. And don't think, oh, I'm a punk. Don't think, oh, I'm too hard. I can't cry. They're going to think I'm soft. Listen, if you need to get alone and you cry in your bed or in the shower, you do that because it's purification. It's purging. And don't ever feel like you can't cry because you can. And let me tell you, a lot of things, cancer and all of this stuff, and I know what's going on with the food and everything, the food industry, but cancers and diabetes and all of these different things are linked to emotions, unforgiveness, hardness of heart, being stubborn, rebellious. All those things are within your body and your body is having a reaction to it because that's not who you are. You're made in the image of God.
Yep. That's it. That's absolutely it. And my mom, she actually had all of the ailments that you're speaking of, minus diabetes, minus diabetes. My mother had all of those. She had kidney failure for over 17 years. She had high blood pressure. She had thyroid issues. She had everything that you could. She had cancer. She had breast cancer, had to have one of her breasts removed. And then years later, it came back into bone cancer. My mother had every single ailment. And it was not just because she was not eating right. That was the fruit. That not eating right. That was just the fruit of what was internally going on. It was because she had molestation from her father. She had abuse from her father, beating on my grandmother and all of the children. She had deep poverty. They would have to eat out of trash cans. And so I'm talking about she had years upon years upon years of abuse that she was dealing with. And all of that ended up in her body.
And Victory, I hear also that it's because she wasn't loved properly. when you're not loved properly. I just was reading James last night. James has 5 books, and God had me to read through the chapters and through the book of James. And when he says, Holy Spirit, help me, because I was just reading this last night. But when we talk about not being loved properly, that you can prophesy, you can pray, you can have all these things, but the bottom line is love. Love covers a multitude of sin. It was the fact that Jesus sent his only begotten son to die for us because of love. Because of love. One word, love.
My God.
And a lot of people have not experienced this. A lot of people, even us, including, myself and you, that we have been mishandled somewhere, whether it was in childhood, whether it was in the womb, whatever. We have been mishandled, and people don't know how to love because there's different layers of love. There's agape love. There's philo. What is it? It starts with an F for P.
Phileo?
Yeah, phileo. I hope so. I don't want to say the other word. I don't want to say the other word because that's right. But it's different layers of love, and you can research that out. But just being loved, and because that she was so mishandled, and then you think about the generational curses that have come. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really something to explore. So if we get back to the love, and we know that our first love is Jesus, our first love is God, getting back to the foundation of who we are in him and what he wants to do to us and through us.
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. Love and forgiveness. Those 2 things are the most powerful things that you can have. And I remember I got locked up. Okay. Yes, I got a long story. I got locked up before for fighting because I didn't have a choice. I used to live in the hood. So you got to fight. And this time it was a fight with my aunt. First of all, I should have been locked up, but I got locked up by a family member, my aunt, and we were fighting. And I was looking at some real years because she had lied. But I remember being in jail, and on like the 4th or 5th day, they had a pastor come down. So now I'm just like, okay, this preacher coming. Pastor comes and he's talking about what? Love. And I'm like, I'm locked up. And you will come and talk to me about love. You out of these 66 books, you telling me there is nothing else. Okay, what about when they was shouting and they praised God so much that the chains fell off? Don't you want to preach about that? You know,
because listen, I'm trying to get these chains off of me. So can you do, girl?
You are preaching the wrong sermon, and I crack myself up sometimes, but it's the truth. That is what I thought. I was very angry that he would preach about love. And years later, the Lord brought it back to my remembrance. He said, I preached to you about love because of the fact that you were not loved. That is how you got bound. And the only key to get the chains off of your heart, your mind, and your life is through love. See, love is not just emotional. Like you said, it's different levels of love. It's not just friendship love or family love or husband or wife love, relationship love. There is love for yourself and your things. I used to be a very dirty person. I didn't even love my own things. I never knew how to love my life, because what you love, you take care of. I didn't love my finances, my financial life, because it was a whole mess. I didn't love any of my friends because I had greed in my heart and I wanted them to love me, but I didn't realize that in order to receive love, you have to first give love. I had no idea how to love anything. What you love, you care for. And a representation of that love actually was expressed yesterday, because a few days ago, that's why I kind of been offline and things like that. My best friend's mom had passed, and it's kind of full circle when I realized how much I love her. Like I love her and her family, but I love my best friend, because when her mom passed, I sent her some flowers that were expensive and it hurt. And I was just like, ooh, but I love her so much that even though it financially pained me a little bit, I sent her a nice bouquet of flowers. And then I thought about, she asked me, she was like, Vic, it was an issue with her software to do her mom's obituary. And I said, girl, I'll do it. And she was like, I never thought about asking you, because I know you got a lot on your plate with your business, because I do graphic and web design. I have my own company. And I said, if you ask me a half an hour, let me help you understand. If you ask me a half an hour before the funeral to do it, I would drop everything to do it, because I love you. You got to understand, my best friend, when my mother passed, she was there when they were putting my mama in the body bag to pick me and my son up to go to her house, because I didn't have nowhere to stay. And then she did my mama's obituary. That's what I'm talking about, love.
Yeah.
Love is giving of yourself when it's inconvenient, when you don't feel like it, when you got all this stuff going on. The Father, let me help you understand about love. We think that the love was when he died on the cross. First of all, Jesus died before he even got here to the earth, because when he made the decision, when the Father made a decision to send his son, pour out himself into flesh, that was death right there. Let me go a little bit further to help you understand.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been in a really, really nice place? I'm talking about maybe you've experienced just something really, really, really nice. Well, let me explain this with food that people will understand. Have you ever ate a cheesecake so good, like the Cheesecake Factory, so good that, I mean, nothing can change it, and then you go to like your local food line and get one for $5? They taste different, don't they?
Mm-hmm. They do.
And you like, what in the world is going on? Something like that happened to me recently. God had I was going to get a new car. I just got a new car, and I was like, I'm just gonna go to just like the regular place and just go get a car. And when I got to the regular car place, because God had changed my life so dramatically, I didn't know that he had changed my smell. I opened the car door and it smelled different. Now, I told you that I lived in a closet. I've lived in homeless shelters. I've lived in the hood. I grew up in the hood, but God had changed me so much that when I got to something that was below my standard, I knew it by its smell. So imagine Jesus, who had been with the Father for so long, had to pour himself out. He had been in glory. He had been in splendor. He had saw everything. Things move faster than you could even blink of an eye. The Father's just gloriousness. And he had to pour himself into a woman of dirt. And we just minimize his life to the cross. If you had to come out of something that was so beautiful and submit yourself for 9 months in a womb of dirt, and then had to submit yourself to 2 people called parents, that's dirt, and then you had to be on this earth for 33 long years submitting yourself to dirt. The cross for him was glorious because he was going back home. That's love. That is the definition of true love. When you deny yourself at all costs for the person or the thing or the business. If you say you got a business, there's some sacrifices. What are you dying to give of yourself to for love? That's what love is.
Thank you so much, Victory, for giving us that illustration, because I never looked at it that way. And I thank you for that, because that puts a lot of things in perspective for us, and it should. When you do have to deny yourself, denying yourself is not, oh, I'm fasting for such and such amount of time, so I'm going to deny myself of this cake. Really denying yourself. And like you've mentioned, your business, entrepreneurship, even if you're on a 9-to-5 job, you're in a place of servitude. If you're doing it unto the Lord, if you're doing your work, your ministry, your business, everything unto the Lord. When I come in here Wednesday and Saturday to do this talk show, I'm doing this unto the Lord. I'm doing it because I have my passion is within him. I want to please him. I want to be obedient and do what he's called me to do. Because my plan, if it was left up to me, I would have been a Hollywood star in LA, auditioning and being on TV in my Hollywood home in the hills. Because that's what I was working towards. I lived out there. That's what I was doing. That's what I was believing and hoping for. And he put this talk show in my spirit to do. And even then, when I walked away from it, from frustration and just tired and, all of these things, I put it on the back burner and went into the financial industry. And he blessed me with that too, because I remember I went on the 3-day fast because it was between me and a candidate. I got TD Ameritrade through a temp agency, and it was between me and this other candidate. And they called me and said, okay, you're the runner up, but they're going to interview someone. And so we're waiting to see. And we kept going back and forth. And I went on a 3-day fast. I never told anyone this, but I went on a 3-day fast and I presented to the Lord. I said, God, I really want this job. Like, I really want to be stable and be somewhere. I was with TD Ameritrade for 5.5 years. And he blessed me with that, even though that was not my purpose and that was not my calling. And I learned a lot doing with finances and how to, invest and all that, all of those things. And he prepared me for what I'm doing now, as far as with my finances and things of that nature, but he brought me back around to what I'm doing now. And so really quick, I don't want to hold you up any longer, but I do have a few things. So first thing is, where are you now?
Where am I mentally, or just,
all of it, just where he has you now, just hearing your journey right here, right now. Where are you?
Yeah. So now God has really brought me full circle. My business, Gift Share Graphics, he blessed me through that. And if you see where I live, you will be like, wow, he really did bring you a long way. So my business, I'm a full-time entrepreneur. Nobody signs my check except Jesus. I'm an author now, and now I'm just finally getting settled. I thought that the settling was kind of like you, was going to be, multi-millionaire at my job. Just, I loved my job. I never wanted to leave, and I was great. I thought I was going to retire, and God said, no, you're going to be in purpose. So I am fully in purpose where I'm at right now. What's so funny, I live in downtown Charlotte, and the Lord told me to come here. So we call it Uptown here. So I live in Uptown Charlotte. Well, when I first came to Charlotte, North Carolina, I lived in Uptown Charlotte, but it was right up the street. Like, right up the street is the homeless shelter where I used to live at.
Look at God.
And now I live in Uptown Charlotte, where all, like, in the center of the city, where it is beautiful. And I'm not saying that to brag. I am saying this, that God will give you the desires of your heart if you just stay focused on him. So what you were saying, Ashley, is that, you had the vision of being on television and stuff like that. And God is going to do that. He's going to do that for you because he sees your consistency, and he brought you around full circle. He just brought you the back way, and that's kind of like what God did for me. And my dream was always, I said, I want to live in one of those, uptown apartments, those beautiful apartments uptown. I want to be able to do that, Lord. And he did it. He literally did it. I'm living in my dream apartment, but God had to send me through a process, and my business paid for it. My business pays my rent. My business pays my car note. My business pays everything. I never thought that was possible. I told y'all, Lord, I need my check every Friday. Now I get paid every day.
Woo, won't he do it?
If I come up with an idea, because this is what entrepreneurship, if you look at the word entrepreneurship, new is in the middle of it. Newership. That means that you have to have a new mind in order to move forward. The new mind is the ship that is going to move you to where he needs you to be. And so when you learn to change your mind about money, the thing is that money is just an expression of what's already on the inside of you. I used to see memes like, I wish I had an ATM in my mind. Well, you do got an ATM in your mind. Anything that I decide to create in my mind, that's money for me. All I have to do, if I don't have enough money, I say, what am I going to create today? Which gift am I going to use today, Lord? Which gift can I use to present and serve the world? Because that's what it's about. And I want to go on the last thing that you touched about of how this is full circle. Because I'm not just full circle in the materialistic things that I have. I'm full circle in my mindset. My mindset has changed. Of when I hear people now say, I gotta wait till Friday, or I can't wait until Friday. No. That irritates me now, because it's just like, you can have money any day of the week if you create something. But something that you had touched on about representing him, I didn't know what it meant to do my work unto the Lord. I used to think that was just so deep and holy. Like when people would say, do your work unto the Lord. First of all, I'm just doing the work so I get my paycheck. I don't know what you're talking about. But what I like, come on now, quit being so deep. But no, I fully get it. When I became a business owner, the Lord showed me, and it blessed my whole soul about how poverty is more detrimental than we think. It's not just because you can't get things, but it's because you represent him wrong. When you are poor, and I'm not talking about a season. I'm not talking about just like a little season at a pocket. We all go into those pockets that happen. But I'm talking about when you are chronically poor, it's because there's something not just spiritual that's going on, but there's something mental that is going on. And we represent God wrong. What saddens me, and this is the basis of my organization that I just started, Isn't Life Better? Because when I was living with my best friend, the Lord sent me to that scripture in Matthew 6 that talks about, isn't life more than food? Isn't life more than, clothes and stuff like that? And I said, no. And I didn't just say, no, I said, hell no. I said it like that in prayer, because I was like, no, how do you have life? How is it that you have life if you don't have a home and you don't have food and you don't have all of that stuff? And almost 11 years later now, I know what that means. When you can represent the Father well, we go into church and we speak in tongues and we praise and we worship, do cartwheels all through the church. We come on Facebook Lives and we talk about Jesus, and our lights can't get paid. We put scriptures on Instagram and we don't have food in the refrigerator, can't feed our family. We go and testify to people on the street talking about how good God is. And we can't take care of ourselves. We about to get evicted from our homes because we are poor. We're poor in our mindset. God had to change my mindset so that I can represent him well. So that I can actually represent him. He is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the one who sits on has a cattle of 1,000 hills, all of that stuff. He owns everything. How can I say that the Lord is the one who takes care of me when I go out the house looking a mess? When my light's about to get cut off, and it's not my light's not about to get cut off, or I'm about to get evicted from my home because God got me in a season. It's because of the fact that I have a wrong mindset and I'm representing him wrong. It's because I'm not coming to work on time and I'm about to get fired. It's because the church person that's coming in, you halfway doing your work. It's because you talk about you own a business, but you can't get the client stuff on time, and you wonder why you are broke. You are not working as unto the Lord. You're not representing him well. That's what that scripture means. So everything that I do, by showing up on time, by getting stuff done on time, by putting some makeup on, when I go to the store, I'm representing the Lord. I'm not telling people on this live that you got to be rich, but I am saying that you should be able to pay your bills. And if you can't, you need to ask the Lord why. And it may not be because you're in a season, and it may not be because it's Satan. It may be because you got a thinking mindset, and you got to fix that so that you can represent the Lord well.
Amen. And on that note, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind daily. So I'm about to hit you with the hot track, Victory, okay?
Okay.
Number one, this is the fire rapid question. So they got to be, okay.
Oh.
Number one, what is your favorite verse in the Bible?
Seek ye first the kingdom of God and all its righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you.
Number two, how do you get into the presence of the Lord?
By singing and worship.
Number three, what do you think heaven will be like?
It's unexplainable. I couldn't even explain it.
Number four, who would you like to meet in heaven? It could be from the Old Testament or New Testament.
Who would I want to meet from heaven? Old Testament or New Testament? I would like to meet Moses, because I want to know how he dealt with all those personalities. Yeah.
Last question, number five. Given the opportunity where you're in a quiet, intimate setting and God manifests himself to you face to face, what would you say to him?
I'm a sinner, because face to face, no. I'm literally gonna say I'm a sinner, and then I'm gonna say, now Jesus, why you had to send me through all of that mess? Why can't you just give it to me?
Thank you. I really appreciate your realness and your rawness. I had a great time interviewing you. Very funny. And if you have, your books and everything, anything that you want to promote, you can do so. Everything is on your website.
Yes, you could definitely go on my website, isn'tlifebetter.org, and you can read a little bit more of my testimony. You can also get my book, Leap here, Leave Everything and Prosper. And this is where I talk about a journey from going from a 9-to-5, a good 9-to-5, to entrepreneurship, how God actually called me. And if you're thinking about taking the leap, you need to get this book. I actually talk about tools on what you need before you even think about taking the leap. And the last thing, I'm a graphic web designer by trade. That is my bread and butter. So if you are looking to start a business, you want to definitely go to www.givesharegraphics.com. And then you can just hit me up on my inbox, Vic Ford on my Instagram, or you can go on Isn't Life Better as well on I have 2 Instagrams. You can go on there as well.
Thank you so much, Victory. To my audience, thank you for watching the live as well as the replay. I really hope that this ministers to you. I really hope that you can take away and apply it to your life. And even if you are in the valley of decision, or you're going through a dark time in your life, things have changed, you're in the middle of transition, I just want you to be encouraged and inspired to hold on. You're not the only one that's by yourself going through. There are many people that are going through, but guess what? You shall overcome, and you will overcome. I speak that over you, that you're an overcomer. And if you need to, as we said, it's okay to cry. It's okay to go through what you're going through, but make sure you come out on top and that you are a winner and you have the victory as well. So with that said, God bless you all. Please take care. I will see you all this Saturday with a new guest and a whole new testimony. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sharing, liking, and subscribing to Facebook as well as YouTube. And I will see you guys later. Thank you.